And so I'm excited on this Easter Sunday, y'all, to introduce my fiance to fellowship. I praise God for what God has done in my life, Minneapolis. And it gets better. My bonus son, Hayes, is here with us, too. During sabbatical, I heard God say clearly, I take ministry seriously. I've given my all to this, and I heard God say, you have served me well, son. I give you permission to experience the gift of family.
When a pastor's wife goes public with allegations of infidelity and abandonment, people take notice. But when more women came forward with testimony, that's when things got really complicated. What started as a story about a failed marriage has turned into something much bigger. 3 women, 3 different stories, one pastor at the center of it all. And the truth? It's messier than anyone expected.
Put a finger down if you met a man last year and he was just the best man in the world, or at least you thought he was. He was so intentional, he was so sweet, he was so thoughtful.
That's Tyler McDavid. And what you just heard is how this entire saga went public. She's the wife of Pastor Elijah McDavid III, senior pastor of Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church in Minneapolis. When she posted that video in late December 2024, it spread like wildfire. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. A pastor who proposed in church on Easter Sunday, and now, just months later, it was all falling apart. Tyler didn't hold back. She laid out the timeline for everyone to see. They started dating in 2024, got engaged in April 2025 after just 9 months together, married in August, pregnant by the end of their honeymoon in Italy. And by December, she was being served divorce papers while folding laundry on the couch. The speed of it all was shocking enough, but it was what happened in between that really got people talking.
Put a finger down if 2-3 days go by and you find out that your fiance had been cheating on you for about a good length of your relationship. Not only had he been cheating on you, but he was cheating on you with a member of the church. He also had another relationship with another woman from the church, but it wasn't sexual. Didn't find this information out until after you all were engaged. You were livid, you were furious, you gave the ring back, you called off the engagement, you called off the wedding that you were planning, you canceled the dress that you ordered, all of this stuff. This man begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded for your forgiveness. After some time and work and like all of this stuff, and you making demands, and he met those demands.
Despite knowing that he was cheating, Tyler remained in the relationship. After all, Elijah begged and even met the demands she made. One of those demands was firing his secretary, the mother of the woman he'd been involved with. When he actually did it, Tyler thought maybe he was serious about making things right. So she decided to give him another chance. She uprooted her entire life, moved to Minneapolis with her young son, left her job and her family behind. They got married. They went to Italy. She got pregnant on day 1 of the honeymoon. Then October came. Tyler says they got into an altercation and decided to take some time apart. She went home for a week. That's when she found out she was pregnant. When she came back to Minneapolis, they tried to work things out. But then he moved out, got his own apartment. By Thanksgiving, he was back at the house playing happy family, taking her son to school, eating dinner together, sleeping there every night. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't.
Then last Saturday, you all get into an argument over a napkin. You get into an argument over a napkin and he decides that he is going to leave. And you tell him, look, you're married. You can't keep leaving every single time you get upset. Married people don't have second residences. He decides to leave anyway. So you text him and you let him know that this is the last time that he will be able to walk out on you, your son, and your unborn child.
She went to church the next day and put on a brave face, smiled at everyone, told her husband he preached a great sermon, asked if he wanted to get brunch. He said he had a headache and was going to rest. She took her son to eat with a friend. When they got back, he was gone. Monday came. Tyler was sitting on the couch folding laundry, watching the Diddy documentary. The doorbell rang. She thought it was a Christmas package from her stepmom. When it rang again, she threw on some clothes because she'd been folding laundry naked, the only clothes that fit her pregnant body already in the wash. She opened the door. A woman stood there. "Are you Tyler?" "Yes." "You've been served." Divorce papers. Tyler was blindsided. There had been no conversation, no warning. A few days later, she finally got him on the phone and asked point blank if he was seeing anyone. He admitted he'd been involved with someone for the past month, not just anyone. One of the two women from the beginning of their relationship, the same women whose existence had almost destroyed their engagement before it even started. Does it even make sense? Before you continue this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. This case gets more complicated with every piece of information, and you'll want to stay updated. People asked Tyler why she took this to social media. She had a simple answer.
For those of you that are new to my page and clearly don't know any of my content, I documented my entire relationship with my husband from my very first date to the time that we eloped in Italy and further on from there. I documented the good times, and so it wouldn't be right or be hypocritical if I did not document and share this information.
But there was another reason. Tyler went to the chair of the deacon board and the chair of the trustee board. She told them everything, gave them more details than the public ever got. Instead of a solution, Tyler was dragged through the church. She was being painted as the villain, the crazy wife. She got tired of being blamed for a situation she didn't create, so she spoke up. And she made it clear she wasn't the only one who'd been silenced. There were other people involved, other women who'd been through things with this pastor, but she was the only one willing to go public. Then Tyler dropped another detail that made people's jaws hit the floor. Remember that demand she made about firing the secretary? Here's why. The inappropriate relationship Pastor McDavid had was with the secretary's daughter, and the secretary knew. She knew her boss was dating Tyler. She also knew he was dealing with her own daughter at the same time. This woman was booking Tyler's flights from Indianapolis to Minneapolis, making dinner reservations, handling all the logistics of their relationship while fully aware her daughter was also involved with him. That's why Tyler wanted her gone. She didn't want to work with someone who'd helped deceive her. She didn't want to call her or email her or interact with her in any church capacity. When Pastor McDavid actually let the secretary go, it made Tyler feel like maybe he understood how serious this was. Maybe he really was committed to changing. That's part of why she moved forward with the marriage. She thought his actions proved something. Turns out, they didn't prove much at all. The church eventually sent out an email. They said they were supporting the family through these claims against their pastor. Tyler read that email and couldn't believe it. Nobody from the church had reached out to check on her son Hayes. This little boy had moved to Minnesota, started a new school, made friends at church, built a whole life there. And now he'd had to leave everything behind. She'd had to sit him down and explain that this wasn't his home anymore. The church that claimed to support the family never once checked in on the child caught in the middle of it all. While Tyler's videos were going viral, another woman was watching.
I am saddened and disheartened to have to make a video like this. I was going to allow it to pan itself out with the people that were involved, but the moment that my name came into it and screenshots are being posted with my name in it, I felt like I have to say something. I am not mistress. I am not someone that is maintaining an inappropriate...
This woman wanted to make something very clear right from the start. She didn't want to get in the middle of anyone's marriage. Here's what she said.
At that point, like you, I also tried to see if we could figure things out and maintain the relationship. That's not necessarily something that I would recommend to anybody today, but that is my truth. We decided ultimately in about May of 2024 that we were no longer going to attempt to work on our relationship and that we would cut things off. From that point, he and I did not maintain contact the same way that we had before. We really did take a lot of space from each other.
And then in the spring of 2024, everything crashed. Like Tyler would later do, this woman tried to see if they could work through it. She doesn't recommend that approach now, but that's what she did at the time. By May 2024, they decided it was over. They were done trying. They cut things off and took space from each other. For a while, there was real distance between them. But later that year, he started reaching out again, asking her to dinner, inviting her and her friends to brunch. And during these meals, he kept saying the same thing. He was single. He was alone. If he went on trips, he went by himself. He was on sabbatical as a single man. Then came spring 2025.
To my surprise, he asked me to dinner in spring of 2025 of this year and let me know that he was planning to propose to someone. And I'll be honest and let you know that I absolutely crashed out in that moment because I felt like even though we weren't together, we had built a friendship over the last few months.
She checked with other people. They told her they'd been seeing Tyler's videos for a while. They thought she already knew. That's why nobody had told her. She was the last to find out. She talked to her mentor, and that's when she learned something even worse. Pastor McDavid wasn't planning to propose. He'd already proposed to Tyler before he ever had that dinner conversation. He'd already gotten engaged and then sat across from his ex-girlfriend and lied about it. She confronted him, asked why he lied, asked why he didn't tell her Tyler existed this whole time they'd been having dinners and staying in touch. His answer? He didn't want to lose his best friend. She asked if Tyler knew about her and their past. He said he didn't think it was necessary to tell his fiancée about his ex. This woman was frustrated. She told him it wasn't fair for anyone to walk into a situation this delicate without knowing what was going on, especially when plenty of people in the congregation already knew. That's when she decided she was done. Even a platonic friendship wasn't worth it. Her trust had been violated again. She stopped communicating with him, blocked his number, blocked him on social media, cut him off completely. And then something unexpected happened on October 25th.
It was October 25th of this year, which you know is his birthday, that I received a call that was not his personal number and not his social media, reaching out to me to let me know that he had been in what you would call an altercation that ultimately...
Her first thought was that this wasn't her problem. She shouldn't have to show up for someone who'd broken her trust multiple times, but she felt like showing up was the right thing to do. So she went to the hospital, not as a friend, not as someone looking to rekindle anything, just as someone who'd gotten news that a person she once cared about had been in an accident. She made it clear their relationship had been strictly platonic since spring 2024. She understood there was hurt and frustration and disrespect in this whole situation. She understood it was humiliating. She wouldn't wish it on anyone, but she wanted people to know this was not her character. She doesn't maintain relationships with men who are in relationships or married. She hoped everyone involved would get what they were owed. She prayed it would all work out. But the anger being directed at her was misdirected. She thanked her friends and community for supporting her through everything. And she ended with the same statement she started with. I am not anyone's mistress. So now we have two women. Two very different stories. The details don't quite line up. And that October hospital visit is where things get really murky. Tyler mentioned an altercation in October. She said they decided to take time apart after it happened. She went home for a week. That lines up with the ex-girlfriend's story about getting a call on October 25th saying Pastor McDavid had been hit by a car. But there's a big difference between we had an argument and took space and he was in a serious car accident. People started asking questions. What actually happened in October? Was it just a fight between husband and wife? Or was it something more? Tyler never directly addressed whether she hit him with a car. She talked about the October argument. She talked about them taking space. She mentioned physical altercations in a general sense, but didn't go into specifics. What we know for sure is that something happened in October that was significant enough for Pastor McDavid to end up in a hospital, and his ex-girlfriend, who'd blocked him on everything and cut off all contact, somehow got a call about it and showed up. While all of this was playing out online, Pastor McDavid eventually had to face his congregation. He stood in the pulpit and gave what many people saw as a carefully crafted response.
I want to say that I, like any other person with a biblical name, I can't help but to resonate with the story of the personality that I'm named for. I have a gravitational pull that keeps on drawing me back to the story of the prophet Elijah. And I'm drawn, Deacon Corey, not just to the high moments of success that he experiences, but I am drawn sometimes to the low moment that Elijah experienced in 1 Kings chapter 19. If you've been at fellowship a little while, if you read your Bible, you know I've
He told his church they'd accomplished a lot together. They'd had beautiful, victorious seasons. But right now, they were in a chapter 19 moment. A lot of people were hurting. And he admitted he was hurting too. He said he'd cried a lot over the past 3 months. There were moments he asked God why. He said he wanted to go away to the mountaintop like the biblical Elijah did, to let God replenish him, recalibrate him, restore him. He wanted to be better before resuming the work of ministry. Then came the part everyone was waiting for.
As I prepare to take this brief leave of absence, I do also today want to offer a wholehearted apology to this church family. You all have had to hear some hard things this week. And while what you've heard is misleading, I recognize that what you've heard still causes pain. It tarnishes our reputation as a church. It makes some question the spiritual well-being of our institution. And perhaps worst of all, it evokes memories of church hurt and trauma that all too many of us have had to live through time and time again. And so, from the bottom of my heart, I'm deeply sorry that because none of you should have had to experience hurt like this on the week of Christmas.
After that, he publicly dissolved his marriage. People had very different reactions to that sermon. His supporters saw a man being vulnerable about his pain. They saw someone who'd been through something traumatic and needed time to heal. They believed him when he said the information going around was misleading. They took his word that he'd made the decision to end his marriage for his own safety. Critics saw something else entirely. They saw a man who'd just been publicly accused of cheating, abandoning his pregnant wife, and deceiving multiple women. And they heard him turn it around and make himself the victim. But Tyler's version of events painted a very different picture. She said he was the one who kept leaving. He was the one who got the apartment. He was the one who came back and played happy family until he decided to serve her papers out of nowhere. Before moving on, a quick thank you to everyone watching and supporting this channel. Your presence truly keeps it alive. This community continues to grow because of people who believe in real, meaningful storytelling. Becoming a channel member unlocks exclusive extras, behind-the-scenes content, and directly helps us bring more powerful true stories to light. Your support makes a real difference. We'd love to know who's here. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. If you're still tuned in right now, write "I'm still here" in the comments. Let's see who's watching till the end. Don't forget to like this video too. Now let's continue. While Tyler and the ex-girlfriend were getting all the attention online, there was another woman whose story got barely any notice. Her name is Ariana Crosby. She's the daughter of church members Henry and Stephanie Crosby. And in a church service, she stood up to give her testimony about something that happened to her in August. What she shared had nothing to do with romance or relationships. It wasn't about infidelity. But people who were paying close attention realized her story intersected with this whole situation in a way that couldn't be ignored. Ariana is an avid softball player. In August, she tore her Achilles tendon. She had surgery a few days later and decided to recover at her parents' house. She packed up herself and her dog and moved in with them. The whole month of August, she was in a cast on crutches working on her recovery. And then on August 29th, something went terribly wrong.
I had trouble breathing. Luckily, I was home with my parents that evening. I kept telling them, I'm fine, I'm good, I just gotta sit here and breathe. Luckily, they did not listen to me.
Then suddenly she stopped. She said, "I need help. I can't do this on my own." They carried her out. She remembers seeing the front yard, the ambulance, the stretcher. And the next thing she remembers is waking up in the ICU a week later. She was attached to machines in her neck and arms. She saw her family. She tried to speak to them, tried to wave, but she couldn't. She couldn't use her voice. She couldn't move her arms. She was just there, unable to communicate. But she wasn't scared. She knew something had gone horribly wrong. She also knew God had done something to bring her to that moment. Every nurse who came into her room said the same thing. "I can't believe your story. You don't look like what you've been through." About a month into her recovery, Ariana finally looked at her medical chart. What she read made her break down in tears. She didn't stop breathing until she reached the emergency room. Her heart didn't stop until she reached the emergency room. She was given CPR by the Lucas machine, the automated device that does chest compressions for doctors. For 2 full hours, they worked on her without giving up. When they finally decided to try other methods, they put her on an ECMO machine. This pumps blood through the body to let the heart and lungs rest. When they put it in, they hit an artery. She started bleeding into her leg and back. She needed a massive blood transfusion. She was transferred to the University of Minnesota Medical Center. Her family didn't see her for 10 hours. They had no idea what she was going through. When they finally got to the hospital, doctors told them Ariana was the most critical patient there. But when Ariana woke up, she saw her family's faces. She knew everything. She understood where she was. She was okay. God had protected her through every moment. He'd aligned everything for her to be in the right place at the right time with everything she needed. She was thankful. She gave all the glory to God. And she made a promise. Her life was His. Whatever He wanted her to do, she'd say yes. Now here's where Ariana's story connects to everything else. August 29th, the day she had her medical emergency, was the same month Pastor McDavid and Tyler got married. The same month they went to Italy. The same month Tyler got pregnant. And Ariana's family, the Crosbys, are members of Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. They know Pastor McDavid. They're part of the congregation that's been torn apart by these allegations. Ariana's testimony wasn't about him. But the timing and the details matter. Ariana never mentioned Pastor McDavid by name during her testimony. She didn't talk about his marriage or the scandal or any of the drama. But when you listen carefully to what she said, and when she said it, patterns emerge. She gave this testimony to the congregation after everything went public. After Tyler's videos, after the ex-girlfriend spoke out, after Pastor McDavid took his leave of absence. She stood in front of that church and talked about being in a place where she couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't make her voice heard. That timing puts us right in the middle of when all of this other stuff was happening. When Tyler was being served divorce papers, when the ex-girlfriend was being dragged into a public scandal, when the church was choosing sides. Ariana talked about feeling disconnected from what her body experienced versus what her mind experienced because she was unconscious. She said there was a gap between the reality of what happened and her understanding of it. That's an interesting thing to say in a church where a similar disconnect exists. In the same way, Pastor McDavid stood in front of that congregation every Sunday, looking and sounding like a man of God. He preached, he led worship, he counseled people, and he didn't look like someone who was allegedly deceiving multiple women and abandoning his pregnant wife. The exterior didn't match what was happening behind the scenes. The most pointed part of Ariana's testimony was when she talked about making a promise to God. She said her life was His. Whatever He wanted her to do, she'd say yes. And then she said she told herself she would not be silent. In a church where multiple women had been silenced, where the ex-girlfriend felt like she'd been kept in the dark, where Tyler had to scream her story on TikTok to be heard, Ariana stood up and said she refused to be silent. She thanked everyone who knew about her situation and prayed for her. And she asked them to continue spreading love and kindness and treating one another well. What makes this case so difficult is that everyone involved has a version of events that makes sense from their perspective. Tyler sees herself as a woman who gave a man a second chance after he betrayed her, only to be abandoned while pregnant. The ex-girlfriend sees herself as someone who was deceived and manipulated, then dragged into a mess she wanted no part of. Pastor McDavid sees himself as someone who had to escape a physically unsafe situation. His supporters see him as a victim of false accusations and abuse. And underneath all of it is a church community that's been shattered. The truth is probably messier than any single narrative. Relationships are complicated. People hurt each other. They lie. They cheat. They make terrible decisions. And when those people are in positions of power and authority, when they're trusted to lead others spiritually, the damage spreads far beyond just the individuals involved. Tyler's son has been traumatized. Her unborn daughter is being brought into a broken situation. The ex-girlfriend's reputation has been destroyed by people calling her a mistress, and the church congregation has to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the allegations now swirling around him. There are still so many unanswered questions. What really happened in October? Was it a fight that got out of hand? Was it domestic violence? If so, who was the aggressor? Why hasn't there been a police report or charges? What did church leadership know, and when did they know it? Why didn't they act? Who was Pastor McDavid involved with in December when he admitted to Tyler he was seeing someone? Was it one of the two women who've spoken publicly, or someone else entirely? And if it was one of them, why haven't they confirmed it? What's clear is that 3 women have now spoken publicly about their experiences with Pastor Elijah McDavid III. 2 of them dated him or were married to him. One of them shared a testimony that may or may not be connected, but raises questions either way. All 3 have said things that don't quite line up with each other, or with what Pastor McDavid has implied, and the church that's supposed to be a place of truth and accountability has failed to provide either. This story isn't over. Pastor McDavid took a leave of absence, but he'll eventually return. Tyler is still pregnant, still dealing with divorce proceedings, still trying to figure out how to explain all of this to her children. The ex-girlfriend is trying to rebuild her reputation after being called a mistress by strangers online. And Ariana's testimony sits there in the background, unacknowledged but impossible to completely dismiss. The truth about what happened between these people may never fully come out. There may never be a definitive answer about who's lying and who's telling the truth, but what we do know is that multiple women have found the courage to speak up. They've refused to be silenced. They've shared their stories despite the cost. And whether you believe them or not, their willingness to go public has exposed cracks in a system that too often protects powerful men at the expense of everyone else. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. This case is complicated and painful, and it matters that people are paying attention. Subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories that dig deeper than the headlines. Like this video if you found it informative. Share it with anyone who needs to hear these women's voices. And remember, the truth is rarely simple, but it's always worth pursuing.